Hey guys, welcome back to Ask Amy. I have a question here today from Holly, um, which is a question about a habit that she has, but specifically what's a little different about this one is she's really asking about the shame that she feels. And we've had lots of questions about habits and how to find freedom from habits and things like that. But the shame piece of this, I think, is a really interesting piece, and I think something that's going to be super helpful for everyone, no matter where you are in life or what's going on for you, to see a little bit about shame and what it really is. So I'll read Holly's question. Holly says, "Hi Amy, I'm having a hard time with my overspending habit. I've managed to spend my way into even more debt. I'm looking for insights related to this, but even if I have some and I'm able to get my spending under control, I'm still faced with this debt I've created and the resulting shame. So I guess my question is, how do I deal with the shame?" So thank you for sending this question, Holly. And I know you say, you're still out there looking and trying to get some insights into why you overspend and how to find freedom from that piece of it. And again, you're really kind of asking about the shame related to the debt, which I do want to talk about, but I can't help myself. If someone has a habit, I kind of have to go there for a minute. So I just want to share with you, and again, for everyone, how your habit, Holly, of overspending is absolutely no different than any habit that any of us are caught up in. It's all the exact same thing at the root. Now, yours manifest in a different way, of course. They look different on the surface, but the surface stuff doesn't really have anything to do with what's going on, and it's definitely not the place we want to focus and look when we want to change this habit. You don't need to go into Overspenders Anonymous or do something specifically around the spending first. What you want to see is what's going on, like what's at the root of this, and again, that's the case for anyone with any habit. So, Holly, you overspend, you buy things that you don't need, probably things you don't want at times, because it makes you feel better, and it doesn't really make you feel better. That's the big kind of cosmic joke in all of this, is we do the things we do because we associate a nice feeling, a nicer feeling, some kind of relief, some kind of peace, something is temporary and fleeting as it might be. We associate a feeling that's more like home with something that we're doing. I did it with food. People do it with alcohol. They do it with working, and we pat them on the back when they overwork. People do it with spending, like you do, Holly. People do it with all sorts of things. Again, some of those things we look at and say, oh, good for you. You work all the time. You exercise all the time. You do this all the time. And society will tell you that's a good thing, but you know how it feels. If you don't feel free. And other things like eating, drinking, spending, everyone looks and says, what are you doing? And then you feel all this shame, and you look at yourself and say, what am I doing? And you feel all this shame around it, but they're all the same. They're all the same. And it's all just based on a really simple, yet sometimes tough to really get misunderstanding, which is that this thing we're doing when we don't feel well, and you go out and swipe that credit card and buy something or take something home or sign up for something or whatever it looks like, it seems like that act helps you feel better for a minute. And it can't really be that act, because I'm positive you've bought things and felt horrible. Buying things doesn't make people feel good. When our thinking settles down, we feel good. And so what happens is, if you're telling yourself, oh, I love to buy these things and I'm going to go do this and that and whatever, you might have a lot on your mind, and you go out and you do the thing, and maybe your thinking settles down for a second. Someone takes a drink, they eat some food, they do whatever they do, they get on Facebook, they kind of numb out. Their thinking relaxes for a second, and they say, oh, thank you, Facebook. You made me feel better. Thank you for being here so I could waste 3 hours of my day on you, because it just helps me feel so much better. Facebook doesn't do that. There's a million people out there that will say Facebook does the opposite for them. What happens is we all have well-being within us. And when our thinking settles down, we feel that. And freedom comes from starting to see that all these things out in the world that we're doing, those things are not giving us the feeling that we're getting. That feeling is you. It's you meeting you. It's your thinking all this stuff settling down for just a second, just enough for just a second, so that you can feel you. You can feel the truth and feel yourself in there. And that is available to anyone at any time, no matter what we're doing. You don't need to buy a thing. So again, sorry, I can't resist a habit question. I have to go there a little bit. But there is a lot for you to see about this, Holly, and it really will, just seeing that it's all you're really buying is a very temporary peace of mind that didn't actually come from the act of buying anything anyway. It was there within you. It's there in you right now all the time. And we just get really identified with all this stuff in our heads and the feelings moving through us. We misunderstand them. It's innocent. But when we see all of that in a clearer way, habits just, we don't need them. Why would you go buy stuff you can't afford if you really clearly see that you have wellness within you right now, and you can touch that at any moment, and that this stuff does nothing to help with that? So the real part of your question is about the shame, and I'm really grateful to get the opportunity to say a little bit about that. So your habit has obviously led you into some debt. Just like buying stuff doesn't make us feel good, debt can't create shame. Now I know you still feel shame, and that's okay. I'm not taking that away from you. I just want to say this up front to kind of, again, see that we can't feel stuff out there. Debt is a completely neutral ratio of how much you have to how much you owe. There's nothing shameful in that. People get loans and they instantly go into debt, and they go home and crack open the champagne because maybe they got a loan that they're excited to buy the thing they're going to buy, and they might be in a lot more debt than you. But it's our thinking in each and every moment that brings that. So I get it. You have this, you buy things that you kind of don't really want or need, and you know that. And so your thinking's already kind of judgmental and what's going on. Why am I doing this? And I have this problem. And then now you have the debt to show for it. And so again, your thinking goes to, it's so shameful. I can't believe I'm doing this. Why is this happening? But I just want to start to point you towards something we call psychological innocence, which is how we start to naturally see life, ourselves, our issues and habits, when you really get a true, accurate glimpse of what's going on in our experience and how we work. So again, your entire debt issue, the reason you have debt, Holly, is based on a very innocent misunderstanding that you happen to share with pretty much everyone on earth. So there's nothing particularly personal or shameful about this. It's just like, it looks like stuff out there makes us feel a certain way, and we start to associate that stuff. So you've done that. You want to feel good, and that just shows how healthy you really are. You want to feel good, Holly. So you're out buying things and accruing this debt. And yes, you know better. Your little mind, your intellect knows better, knows that this isn't a great thing. But you don't see a better way. If you saw a better way, you'd do it. If another way looked possible and looked like it would help you feel better, you'd do it. So in that sense, we are all doing the best we can see to do from the level of understanding that we have. Now, again, we know better. Now, everyone will feel all this shame all the time. I mean, I lived in shame for years because you know better. And we always say that, and it looks like, well, if I know better, why would I not do better? Well, without getting too deep, there's different levels of knowing. You intellectually know better. Everyone knows it's not healthy to drink every single day, or to fill your body with food you're not hungry for, or to fill your closet with clothes you don't need, or whatever. Everyone knows that. But if something in you is doing it, then you don't really know better. You don't see another way. So this whole idea that we do the absolute best we can, given how life looks to us in that very moment, it starts to kind of shift your perception of shame and taking things so personally, and these things being these big, heavy, deep, personal, shameful problems. And it starts to look more, it can, I hope it does for you, start to look more like, oh, I'm caught up in a misunderstanding. Like I do know better, and yet I'm doing this. So rather than call myself a big loser or assume that I'm self-sabotaging or whatever crazy theories we come up with, maybe we can just see, something's not adding up. And again, I know it's not always that light and like, oh, something's not adding up when it's you, but that's just because we take our thinking so seriously. We take ourselves so seriously. We see this as this big, huge personal flaw that we need to fix, and it just isn't. We're all the same. Everybody's doing this stuff, and it doesn't have, everybody does it at times, and it doesn't have to be this heavy, shameful thing. It's just that if you're buying stuff that you can't afford, you want to look at that. Like, what am I mixing up here? It looks like buying this stuff gives me happiness, and it doesn't. So you just want to start to see the whole thing with lightness. And again, this is for everyone, no matter what your habit is. It's all the same. As soon as we take some of that heaviness off of it, we get to be like curious and insightful. And that's where you start to see more, when you're not putting all this weight on your shoulders and all this shame. So again, shame isn't coming from your debt. It isn't coming from your habit. Shame is something we feel when we're telling ourselves, I should be doing differently. Like, I'm wrong. I should be doing something other than what I'm doing. And, I'm not saying you're consciously like thinking that all the time, but that's that heavy feeling of shame comes from thinking along the lines of, I'm wrong, I should be better, I shouldn't be doing what I'm doing. And when you start to see, wait a minute, does that really make sense? Like, we're doing what occurs to us moment to moment. Now, can you see more? Can you have insights? Can your consciousness raise a little bit and you start to do things at a higher level? Of course. But that's not anything to feel shame about either. Like, everybody has their thinking in the toilet once in a while, and we do crappy things and we do things we're not proud of. And then it naturally rises up. And then we're nice people again. And then we have a sense of humor and we have a lightness about us. And then it goes down. I mean, this is just human life. It isn't personal. It's not about you. It's just human life. It goes up and down all the time. And if you can kind of start to get a feel for that, again, it keeps this lightness about it. So the debt doesn't bring shame, can't possibly. People celebrate being in debt at times for the right reasons, for the right thinking. But Holly, for you, you're thinking, this is wrong, I know better, I should be doing better, all this stuff. So that is what's bringing the feeling of shame. And that's a really huge thing to see, because as true as that might look to you, it is still thinking in the moment. When your mind is going to, I'm horrible, I should be better, you're going to feel a heavy feeling of shame. And the heaviness in that is there to show you, hey, wait a minute, Holly, you're thinking and believing a bunch of stuff that isn't necessarily the truth. That's why shame and other emotions like that feel so big and heavy. It's a wake-up call. They're wonderful feelings to have. We just want to understand them and not take them so seriously. So I don't see it as shameful, Holly. Again, lots of people out there have debt for various reasons, and they may or may not see it as shameful. Doesn't mean it is, doesn't mean it isn't. What it comes down to is how we're thinking in each and every moment. So I want you to start to see, when you get hit with all this shame, feels like it's moving through you and it's just the worst thing in the world, what you can start to do is just see, wow, my thinking is creating this. My bank account isn't, my credit card statements aren't. My thinking in this very moment is creating this. It doesn't mean go think a positive thought. It just means hang out and see that your mind is making it up. There's nothing to change. It changes on its own. Again, we have this up and down. That's a human constant. It's just a fact. It's a fact of human life. Like, we can't get away from it. So when you're down in shame, it just means you're telling yourself some shameful garbage. Don't believe it. I don't know, relax, go take a drink of water, I don't know, do whatever you do. And before you know it, you'll be back up here again. But we need to see that, because when we don't get that it works like this, we get really sensitive to the shame. And then we feel shame about feeling shame. And then you want to go spend some money to feel better. It's a big cycle. So the more we can just see everything in this lighter, human, we're all doing the best we can, psychological innocence kind of way. And again, this is all completely, like, you do just start to see it this way as you see how our experience works. that we're all well, we're all healthy, we have a flood of thought and feeling moving through us, and that's not meant to be taken really seriously because it's always changing. But we, all 7.5 billion of us, in our misunderstanding, we do take it seriously at times, and that's what gets us in trouble. So I hope this is helpful, Holly. I hope it's helpful for a lot of you. I know it's a holiday season and lots of spending and lots of thinking about spending, and whatever habit you might have, whatever you're caught up in, again, it all applies. It's extremely simple in that way. It's all about just seeing the truth about who we are beneath all this thought and feeling that we're so caught up in, that we take so seriously. And seeing that just brings such a levity and a sense of freedom, and a not taking ourselves or our thoughts or our behaviors quite so seriously, and that can't be a bad thing. That's good all around in many, many ways. So thank you so much for being here, for everyone who's here live, and thanks, Holly, for your question. I hope it's helpful. Hope it's helpful to a lot of people. And if you have questions, anything at all you'd like for me to address, doesn't have to be about habits, my favorite topic. It could be about anything. Send them to me at AskAmy@thelittleschoolofbigchange.com. I'm here every Monday talking about them. So thanks, guys, for being here. I'll see you next week.